Welcome to Detroit in Black and White, Friday edition. Uh, Good evening, Jim Nardone,
Good evening.
Allan Lengel, co-founder of Deadline Detroit. Good evening.
Good evening.
And our star of the show, attorney Vanessa Moss. What's happening?
Hey, good evening. Good evening. Listen, before we get started, y'all know what I have to do. First of all, we got to say hello to all our peeps out there in these YouTube streets and those that are joining us on all the other social media platforms, especially Facebook. Good evening, Facebookers. You guys already know what we want you to do, Mr. 1213, Janice Saluk, Bridget Huff, Dwayla, all of you guys. You know what we want you to do. We want you to like, subscribe, and share. Tell all your friends about the greatest show on these YouTube streets. Listen, we're encouraging you to. If you want to participate in this conversation, you can either make a comment or you can use your camera and join us. You could just use the audio or you can use the video. But we want you to join us and tell all your people about Detroit Black and White, the greatest show on these YouTube streets.
Okay. I want to briefly talk about something that happened today in federal court. We had a sitting judge and her father, who's an attorney, and I guess a couple other folks indicted for what? What would you call that, our attorney here, Vanessa Moss?
So, what I can remember from what I read, embezzlement, conspiracy, basically lying to an investigator, wire fraud,
money laundering.
Money laundering, right, money laundering. So that's quite a bit. You know, what's interesting, I will say this, and I'm not. First of all, they've been indicted. You're innocent until proven guilty.
Let's say who was indicted. Attorney Avery Bradley and his daughter, 36th District Judge Andrea Bradley, Baskin? Mm-hmm. Yeah, and two others.
Nancy Williams,
and
Dwight Rashad.
And her boyfriend.
So
Dwight Rashad.
Yeah. So because I practice probate, I know all the players, right? And two, particularly more so than the other two. We know that the feds have over a 90% conviction rate. We know that they dot their I's and cross their T's. I hope that things go well, because it's a sad day for everybody. The people that are alleged to be involved in this, but the most vulnerable population, because that could have been you, Jim, your mama, your daddy, Adolph, your mama, daddy, aunt, friends, Allan, your mother, father, sister, brother, whatever. It's just that it puts a stain on people like myself. I'm a practicing attorney, and they already call some attorneys used car salesmen and things like that. You put that much power and control in somebody's hand, and for them to take advantage of it, if they did that.
But we had.
Go ahead.
We haven't had that done before, and I'm looking at the person that Allan Lengel, when he was with the Detroit News, went after the former late chair of the Wayne County Commission, Jewel Ware, and her company. And how long ago was that, Allan?
God, it had to be like 94 or somewhere, 94, 95 maybe, somewhere in there, somewhere in the 90s, early 90s. I wanted Vanessa to explain to people how probate works and how this alleged scheme was able to happen. How does it work in terms of, people?
What happens is, and by the way, transparency, I haven't officially announced, but Adolph announced that I am running for Wayne County Probate Court. 2 years ago, people called me and encouraged me to run for Wayne County Probate Court.
It's a cesspool over there. I work with a family where the attorneys just robbed them blind. They took their money.
Yeah, you told me to run for Wayne County Probate Court And I said,
Yes.
for 36. So anyway, I'm running. So what happens is this. Wayne County Probate Court, you address issues, guardianship, conservatorships, power of attorneys, uh, the mental health doctor, developmentally disabled people, trust, those kind of things. So in a case like this, what happens is you have people who are not able to make legal decisions. They're legally incompetent, based to maybe mental illness or physical incapacity or something like that. And what happens is there's a petition that's filed either by a relative or friend and or adult protective services saying this individual needs to have a guardian. What the court does is they appoint a guardian ad litem, which is an attorney, because the judge can't take their robe off. They appoint attorneys to go out and to do an investigation, tell that person that he or she has rights, and tell them whether or not, ask them whether or not they have a guardian, and then they make a report. If someone is appointed a guardian, a lot of times you have to find out whether or not they have assets. If they have assets, they may also need a conservator. So guardianship is over the person's body, and conservatorship is over the person's bounty, which is their assets. And
Before you go on, I just want to ask: is there checks and balances when somebody, an attorney, come and say, "I want to sell Mrs. Jackson house, and it's worth 500 grand, but they sell it for 100 grand to a company that they're familiar with"? How do that get past all this?
What happens is you're supposed to. This is what is supposed to happen: is that you file paperwork with the court. Adolph Mongo has, or Allan Lengel has, a house. He can't take care of it. We need to sell it. It may be a case where you have to do a spin down, or it may be a case that you can't take care of it. You're supposed to preserve the assets. You decide that, hey, it's in this person's best interest to sell this asset. You're supposed to, just like with anything, you're supposed to provide comps to say, this is what the house is worth, okay? This is what the houses in that neighborhood is going for. And you're supposed to provide information as to who has decided that they want to buy that property and whether or not this is the best, the best deal for that person. And you go before a judge and the judge approves it. So like you, Adolph, like you, Allan, I'm glad you asked the question. Yeah, you have these attorneys and this guardian who is doing this, but they had to get approval from the court. You had to go to the judge. So my question, because when I was doing a whole lot of probate, I was always scrutinized, and I didn't have a problem with it because I was above board. So I don't know how that happened. I do know, and I've said this before on this show, that the probate court really can be for people who don't have good intentions. It could be a really, really.
It's a court gives these attorneys a license to steal, and from '94 they had to change, and here we are in 2026, and we got the same bullshit that's happening, and some of these judges are probably going to run back into their office and put their hands over their ears and eyes, saying, "I didn't know what was happening." I'm reading the shit that was happening, where they were taking a bar, they was taking people businesses and shit. They was lifesavers, and well, you're right.
To me, I don't know if you read it, Allan and Jim. It sounds like to me that it looked like to me, I don't know, but put my attorney hat on, it looked like that guardianship company was formed just so that they can do the things that they were doing. If there was one instance where they said that a letter was written by the sitting judge saying, "Hey, I settled we settled a lawsuit for, I think it was like $36,000. Here's the bill. You wrote it to the guardianship company, and you're real friendly with this person, and she issues a check for $36,000. That to me sounds like a fix. Okay. You did the paperwork to make it appear as if you're above board, right? But in fact, this was a sham. And what is really interesting is this. When I was running for office, y'all knew, because I told you guys about what was going on. What I find interesting is you have an individual who knows that there's an investigation going on. We talked about it. We knew that there were court hearings going on over in probate court. I just can't believe that you had the arrogance and the gall to run for office. That there was some question mark as to your integrity. Now, again.
And she won by a lot. She apparently won.
Yeah, and again, you're innocent until proven guilty. But if there's some question mark about Vanessa Moss,
I'm putting the shit back on the judges. Jim, you said you had. Did you have any issues when you went to probate court? That was your father's, right?
It was my dad, and I will say this: with all the negativity, I had a judge, and there's a guardian ad litem who's an attorney that kind of, and maybe Vanessa can explain it, gets in between your attorney. I had legal representation, who gets in between your attorney and the judge. But I can tell you, our Judge Blackwell Hatcher, was outstanding. She was tough. She was very hands-on. She was involved in everything. In fact, I did have to sell my dad's house, and I had to go before her and explain. I did some upgrades because I had a really low offer because the house was not in the best shape. We fixed the house up.
You had to show your receipts as to how you used the money and all that, right?
Exactly. Sold it for $50,000 more than the offer, which was, it was a $100,000 offer. We got $150,000 out of it. She even said, you need to bill the estate because all the work he does. Absolutely not. It's my dad. I don't want to bill the estate. I just want, the money for the paint and the carpet and whatever, construction work needed to be done. So she was very hands-on. She wanted everything explained to her, and to her credit.
So what happened to the other judges? What happened to in probate this latest scandal? But we'll see. It'll play out. And we'll see what happens.
But it just sounds like I said, I read it. I was like, yeah, this sounds like, because 2016, I was over there probably almost every day. If they went back to 2016, and that's what they did, sounds like that company was formed to do exactly what you're doing. Go ahead,
Allan.
A little bit. Just real quickly, an overview is that what happened, Nancy Williams, own Guardian and Associates.
Yes.
She was appointed as a fiduciary by the Wayne County Probate Court for incapacitated people in more than 1,000 cases. And then we had the judge, she was not a judge at the time of all this alleged criminality. She wasn't elected. She didn't step on the bench till 2025. The allegation is that the criminality went from 2017 to July of 2024. She was elected in November 2024. So her and her dad, both attorneys, were representing Guardian. And then additionally, Nancy Williams' boyfriend, Dwight Rashid, operated a series of group homes and residential facilities for elderly individuals, including some of the wards. And so they ended up, the father and somebody else took over $200,000 in funds. Gaskin took $70,000 allegedly in ward funds to purchase ownership in a bar, and that she also used some money to lease a new Ford. And so
it's more to the story. I'm gonna tell you that.
I'm sure, and maybe you know more.
Allan, I want to say this, and I think I can say this. How can I say this? It is a really, really effort.
Well, get your thoughts together. Let's take a break, and we'll be back and continue this conversation.
Hi, I'm Eric Sabri, your Wayne County Treasurer. Are you living in the home of a deceased family member and you're facing property tax foreclosure? Or maybe you know someone who's in the same situation. The probate process may be helpful to you. If you file a probate petition and notify our office, the foreclosure proceedings will be halted during the probate process. We have several nonprofit partners who have free attorneys who can assist you. Contact our office, 313-224-5990, or email us at taxinfo@waynecounty.com. Don't lose your family property. Some of these properties have been in the family for 4 or 5 generations. Contact us now. We're here to help.
Okay, Vanessa, you got the last word on this probate shit.
What I'm going to say is this. How this thing unfolded, y'all already know the story. I think I know I told you, Allan. I told all of you guys, is this. There was a little old lady who had a relative who wanted to become her guardian. And Nancy's company, along with her attorneys, fought this lady in becoming the guardian of this little old lady. This old lady said, I don't want my niece or whatever. And so the niece kept watching to see what was going on with this guardianship company. She wrote a letter to the attorney general and laid out, this house belonged to such and such. This house was sold for X. It was worth this. This person bought it. This person is associated with these people. I mean, she laid it out, and guess what? They ignored that lady. But that lady didn't give up. And somehow it ended up in the hands of the feds. How it ended up there, I don't know if it went from the AG's office to the feds. I discussed this. There was no other way that I could say this other than be transparent about it.
Oh, okay.
The problem that we have is everybody over there knew that. I know attorneys who inherited those cases to try to clean it up, and nobody said anything. It's like these people are protected, and I don't understand why. Because if it was your relative, Allan, there's no way you would stand for that. Now, are these people going to be able to be compensated?
No.
Well, she's dead. No, that's a different lady. I'm sorry.
No.
Family.
No, they're not going to get shit. And we're going to continue to watch this. Before we go to you, Allan, because I want you to show those 2 videos you got. We can talk about what's happening in Minneapolis with the journalists. Jim, why don't you read some of the comments that we got?
Imagine facing the kind of judge the time Bradley Baskin is facing for $70,000. Queen Bee, that's wild. Who oversees judges? I like to talk about that briefly, but corruption is part of Detroit, Queen Bee. That part, Vanessa. How are you crooked in the run for public office? Laughing, but it's not that funny, Queen Bee. I get it. Exactly. Stephanie Jackson, judges don't check to see if there's a conflict of interest. Courts trust the attorneys. I think courts trust the judges more than the attorneys, and that's why we were in this problem, Stephanie, but you make a good point. Greetings, Karen C. Tracy, I'm going to call her Tracy. I know you're innocent until proven guilty, but the judge should step down. The appearance of dirty hands is not a good look. Shame on all of those indicted. Some of the 36 court judges are a hot mess. Good evening. Hi. We knew you were running. Deborah Harris. Hey, Deborah. I think that Dominique Richmond. Hello to you. Good evening. Ira Todd. Hello, Ira. Good to see you tonight. Angela. Hi, Angela. Edward Alt. Duela. Janet. Mr. 1213. Thank you for that. Two quick points, if I could, Adolph, if we have time.
Go ahead.
If it's 300,000 alleged, that's nothing. That's peanuts, right? And when you have, if the allegations are true, a crooked judge, there is nobody, as some of our viewers have said, standing in between the process and the judge if she's a part of that process. And there's a special place in hell for anybody that would take money from an incapacitated adult, whether it's the chairman of the Democratic Party, Tracy Kornak, or this judge, or anybody else. There's a special place in hell, and there are people out there protecting the disabled and incapacitated, and we owe them a debt of gratitude.
The lady in the Kornacki lady, she's been charged as well in Kent County.
In Kent County, correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, about fucking time.
She's a friend of Dan and Essel. She ran in 2018. She was part of Dan and Essel's transition team. She's a former treasurer now of the Michigan Democratic.
How much money that she took went to Dan and Essel campaign?
Oh,
100. There's
Yeah. Anyway,
yeah.
we're going to continue to follow this as we follow what's happening in Minneapolis. Allan, you got a couple of videos. Why don't you explain to our audience?
Set it up for those who might not be following. Don Lemon, who formerly of CNN, who's an independent journalist who has his own network. Him and another reporter, Georgia Fort, from I believe she lives in St. Paul. They both went to the protests in the church where I think it was the pastor was a ICE agent or related in some way. And so they went in and she was Georgia Fort was filming. Don Lemon was interviewing people. They show him interviewing people and protesters and stuff. They were arrested. The FBI, usually, look, a case like this, the FBI would notify an attorney, say, they've been charged here, bring him in for arraignment. It's not a high crime thing. And second of all, the fact there were reporters there reporting on it. I mean, it's just more intimidation. So they're both Black reporters, so the NAACP is involved in this. But here's the first video.
Thank everybody for their support. It truly means the world to me. I have no idea what's going on because obviously I haven't seen anything. I have spent my entire career covering the news. I will not stop now. In fact, there is no more important time than right now, this very moment, for a free and independent media that shines a light on the truth and holds those in power accountable. Again, I will not stop now. I will not stop ever.
One more.
Current Minneapolis NAACP president.
Good morning. My name is Cynthia Wilson, current president of the Minneapolis NAACP. And you've heard already what's been said. We definitely stand in solidarity with our journalist and specifically Georgia Fort, as she has been an integral part of providing the news for the Black community. Mm-hmm. That being said, I also want to say that what you're seeing now and what we're experiencing is a pivot away from what's happening with our democracy.
Well,
Allan, I'll go Allan, and then you, Vanessa.
No, it's just outrageous. I mean, I can't think of, occasionally we've seen photographers, arrested for, obstruction or whatever, but they were just there reporting on the facts. She, Georgia Fort, a young reporter, was videotaping, what was going on there. Don Lemon, you can see he was interviewing.
Were they the only reporters there? Was it New York Times or Washington Post or any of those folks?
I don't know. I'm not sure who was actually.
Okay.
But obviously they were told ahead of time by the protesters or knew they were going to do this demonstration in the church. But I mean, the fact is, to do a demonstration, I mean, I got arrested while I was on strike twice for civil disobedience. It was a minor thing. They processed us, we had a court date, all that kind of stuff. But it's just, I mean, this coupled by the fact that they raided a Washington Post reporter's home, took all her electronics, that I haven't seen in my whole career of them doing that, simply trying to find out contacts and sources. It's intimidation that they're trying.
Vanessa?
So what I want to say is that I like the fact that Don Lemon said, "Hey, I'm going to stay the course, independent I'm an independent journalist, basically working for independent news. I'm doing my own thing. Didn't he work for CNN at some
Yeah.
point?
Yeah, but I'm suspect. I'm
Let me
suspect.
let me finish because I too said to myself, was somebody tipped off to say, come over here and and you know this get film this or whatever. The
That
bottom
probably
line is
happened.
if wait a minute, the bottom line is if this happened, we should be concerned about our constitutional rights being
There's
trampled.
no question.
The First Amendment and the fact that if he was in there doing his job as an independent reporter and you arrest him because he's doing his job, this looks like something that happens in a third world country. And that is really unfortunate.
Well, it happens and stuff. Uh, I look at it two ways. One, he shouldn't have been treated like that, and him and the other journalists. But two, he is at a place in his life and his career as a journalist to jump into the lion's den now because he got kicked out of the newsroom with the good old folks at CNN, and he's been trying to climb back into the mainstream media, just like what's the Como brother who
Yeah.
was
Chris,
fired? Yes, CNN, and now he's inching his way back into the mainstream media.
Yeah. I'll tell
So
you, when I was at the Washington Post, I went to a crime scene once where the officer shot somebody, and I was interviewing the inspector on the scene, Inspector Coffey, who was really being kind of an asshole, and he wouldn't answer my questions, it being very vague, and I was asking more specific questions, and he was getting annoyed. Then he walked away, so I was interviewing somebody else, and he comes back and he goes, "Who are you talking to?" And I said, "I'm talking to anyone who will give me information." And he said, "You get out of here. I want you off this crime scene." And I walked across the street. I called my editor. I said, "Look, I'm not leaving the crime scene. I might get arrested, but I said, I'm not leaving." And then I
well,
talked,
but I've been chased out of places trying to get a story and shit. But I never got arrested and stuff. But the media. I think this is a little crack in the armor of the feds. But until all of the media, the mainstream media, like the Washington Post and the New York Times, Free Press, the News, these major papers, they don't send anybody to some of this shit. And I guess we do need people like the two in Minneapolis, so I say, it's business as usual with the Trump administration, intimidation, always. We're going to take a break, and we'll be back, but I won't be back. I'll see y'all next week in the Motor City. I'll be back there.
okay.
Take care.
travels.
Safe travels.
Hi, I'm Eric Sabria, your Wayne County Treasurer. If you're living in a home of a deceased family member and you're facing property tax foreclosure, the probate process can be helpful to you. If you file a probate petition and notify our office, the foreclosure proceedings will be halted during the probate process. Contact us at 313-224-5990 or email us at taxinfo@waynecounty.com. We're here to help.
We're back, Detroit Black and White, our Friday evenings edition. If you're watching, you know what we want you to do. Like, subscribe, share. Like, subscribe, and share. Join us. Listen, use that phone. Join us. We have no problem with you joining. As a matter of fact, we're encouraging you to join us. You can join us in the comment section, but you could come on the show and show your face, just like Jim, just like Allan, just like Adolph and myself. Join us, Detroit Black and White. Jim, you want to go to the comments?
I do. Thank you, Stephanie. CNN baited and fried him. Now he's looking for whatever is cooking in the media. Sanford Plotkin talks about being in a fascist state and talking about Peru back in 1985 during he saw people being thrown to the street by military demanding papers in Peru in 1985. Thank you, Mr. Plotkin, for your comments. He is not. I want to comment, if I could. Deborah Harris talks about a ladybird deed, which is a way to move a house safely after the death of somebody. But, you know, that's a great plan, Deborah. Unfortunately, we have people out there that want to get their hands on the property before they do something like that, and they're doing things behind closed doors, which is sad when somebody takes advantage of a person. They don't just take advantage of the ward, they take advantage of the ward's family, typically. Am I wrong, Vanessa?
No, you're absolutely correct. I mean, if we're going back to the opening story, this, oh my God, what you saw is just the tip of the iceberg. There are so many things that have come out about what is alleged to have happened. And we're not just talking about a couple of $100,000. We're talking about 10 years. And I mean, listen, you can have somebody, I think I've talked about this, you can have somebody who passes away and they have heirs, right? And if you are appointed by the court to be the personal representative, if you will, you have to go out and find the heirs, right? There's a question about some heirs not getting money. It's horrible if what they say is true. Just like with the lady in Kent County, that's crazy. And it really, it's just a really, really, really bad look, a really bad look. And like I said, when I was running, I knew about it, but I mean, a lot of people knew about it. People were approaching me, how is this happening? I'm like, look, I don't know. I don't know how it's happening, why it's happening, but I know it's wrong. And we do need people who, you're working for the people.
I think the this is my feeling. I know people are, you know, by our system are innocent until proven guilty, but yeah. I can tell you that when the FBI digs in and they've got paper trails, which they have paper trails in this instance, money, bank accounts, documents, I think it's going to be a pretty solid case against this group. That's just my, I'm being, you know, using conjecture here, but another thing on the other subject is, you know, we always talk and we've had little debates about, and I mentioned it earlier today in our show, with Beverly Watts was on our show this morning, about people seeing all the stuff that's going on with ICE and the Border Patrol and stuff like that, and some people saying it's not Black people's concern, this isn't our fight or whatever. But I've been trying to say that it is spilling over as we see 2 Black reporters being arrested. We see the ICE agents are now, CNN was reporting tonight, are going to move to Ohio to arrest Haitians, going after all the Haitians now. Many of who have been here legally through emergency, whatever it is, declarations, so that they could work in the factories in the communities there. And the lion's share of Haitians are Black. And so I think slowly we see it's not being contained to just one group of people. And it's like, it's all our Constitution. It's all our rights. And I think everyone should be concerned about it. That's just my. Yeah.
So I think it's a misnomer when you say people should be concerned about it. I think I said, as a matter of fact, I know I said, Black people are not going out protesting. Let me finish. People, yeah. Black folks are saying, you know, one of the things that I saw on the book, they use FAFO, fuck around and find out. You guys asked for this, so now you see what you got. This is how people feel. And as much as people don't like hearing it, it's the truth of the matter. Do Black people
explain that?
Do people want to? They're not going out there protesting. And when you go out and protest, as I've said time and time again, listen, when you're out there, you know there's a possibility that you can get hurt. You know there's a possibility that you may not even come home. You know that there's a possibility that you may be arrested. We've seen that time and time again. Years decades of people protesting. We know that. And so Black people are saying, listen, we're sitting out this way. We're not going out here protesting, holding signs and doing all of that. I mean, and I'm Black and I'm of the Black community. Now, I don't think I've heard any Black person that I talked to, and I talked to a lot of people who said, we don't care. That is not what was said. They're saying, we don't care to go and participate in that. And I say, for those people who sit back in their newsrooms and they write about it and they talk about it on and things like that, you're talking about it, but there are people that are putting themselves on the line. They're going out there doing it because they believe in that.
Okay, I buy that. I buy that. But there is a distinction between saying we're not going to go out there and protest with that, and it's not our fight. I think it's everybody's fight. It's a matter of who's going to go out and fight for it. But it's all our fight. It's like Black Lives Matter. Some people say I'm not going out there and protesting, but and some people don't. Some people don't care about if whoever they are, whether they're white or Black, or whatever. They don't care about the other people. They just care about them, and that's human nature. But I get that. If people don't want to go out and protest, I understand that it's risky. Particularly when we see a protester being executed on the street like that. And really two of them. So I get that, but it should be everyone's fight. It doesn't mean you have to be out there doing it in whatever way. I try to write about it. I'm out there. I feel like it's a concern of mine. Whatever people, whether I'm not Haitian, I'm not Hispanic, but it's our country, and whoever's in our country, in particular, a lot of these people are here. They're going to go into Ohio now after the Haitians, like I say, who have been here on like emergency visas or whatever, so they can work in the factories in some of those Ohio towns. And now,
you know what, Allan, what I want to say to you is that when you have the media saying, oh, now they're coming at the Haitians, you guys should be concerned about it. You know what happens? People going to push back. Don't tell me what I should be doing. Don't tell me how.
I don't tell you what to be concerned about.
I'm not telling you. I'm not saying you. I'm not saying you personally. I'm saying in general. People are saying, don't tell me that, okay? Black people feel like, look, we've stood on the front lines. We've done this in the past. We're people who've been left behind. This is how people feel. They feel like they've been left behind. So now you to come and get involved, and now you're telling us that we need to care. We're not saying we don't care, but we don't care enough to get involved like that.
I understand that. I understand that. But when I hear some people, when they say it's not our fight, great. Other people are out there fighting for us. And so it is all our fights. I think that's my opinion. Other people can feel that. Other people don't give a shit. Other people say, we got to, and there are a lot of MAGA people who say, I've heard people say, look, let ICE do their job, get out of the way, don't mess with them. That guy deserved it. That woman deserved it for messing around. And it's like people violate the laws if they are in fact violating the laws, which I don't think that nurse would violate. He was helping a woman who got pushed down. If people are violating laws, they can be arrested. Death isn't the consequence of, those things. Just like
we got a guest. We got Michael Evans.
In traffic stops, people get stopped. If they should stop, they shouldn't run away. We all say, well, I wouldn't run away, but it doesn't mean that death should be the consequence of that. So that's all I'm saying.
Go ahead, Mr. Evans. Good evening. Welcome to Detroit Black and White. What you have to say?
I like to say, I don't understand why do people think it's right for citizens to beat up and throw. I've lived through the riots. If we did half the things I'm seeing these people doing in Minnesota, we wouldn't be here. There's a lot of us wouldn't be here. And I don't understand what gives them the right. And I don't see a Somalia out there. I don't see one Somalia out there protesting. So I don't understand what give, I hate to say it, these white people the right to think they can just tear up a federal car, throw things at the federal agents. I'm talking about they carrying guns. They carrying guns to a protest. I don't understand what gives them the right to think they can do this. And also, I really believe that these white people looking at each other and don't want to do harm to each other. But if it was one of us, they would do harm to us. So I'm so damn glad one of us ain't out there because we could get away with it. We could not get away with it. I lived through the riots. So nobody on y'all show can tell me that this wouldn't happen because I saw it with my own eyes.
And
My
43
best
people
friend,
lost their life.
my best friend's sister got killed during the riots in Detroit, sitting in her house. So I know, but I don't understand how in the H do these people think they got the right to do this to the FBI. That's the only problem I have. Sit your ass down and let the people do their job.
I would say this.
Thanks,
Michael, I understand what you're saying, but look, we all want to have immigration laws enforced, but what they are doing is grabbing people who are some who are citizens, some who have green cards and documents. They're snatching people off the street they pulled an old guy out of the house. He was an American citizen, and they brought him back without explanation the day after. And in terms of if people are throwing stuff at the cops, or they're messing up the cars or whatever, they need to be arrested. If they pose a threat to the life of an agent, then you can understand the justification for the shooting. But the two shootings that we have seen were certainly not something that they were posed. I mean, there's a debate whether the woman was driving her car toward the guy. I think it's on his part, bad policing. He didn't need to stand in the way. She was just trying to get away. And in the other instance, this guy was trying to help this woman who got shoved to the ground. They started spraying him, and then they beat on him, and then they shot him. And we see the MAGAs showing up all the time with guns at protests. We saw, if you go up to the Capitol of Lansing, there were guys with long guns standing out on the lawn with that place showing up. And I'll agree with you. If black people showed up with guns like that, it might be a whole different ball game.
It will be. It will be. But just like you just said, it will be. But only thing I'm saying is I'm so glad, and I hope nobody of my color don't go out there because we won't make it home. And January the 6th, listen to me, January 6th, and I keep hearing people talking about that. To me, that was really reverse racist because, like I said again, all these white people climbing up the building like monkeys. I'm calling them monkeys. If it was 1,000 of my people, we wouldn't have made it to that building. So really everything is being shown. Really everything is really being shown because I don't know if people hate Donald Trump so much that they really showing how they really feel, but that's really waking a lot of black people up. It's really not hurting Donald Trump. It's really hurting the other, I hate to say it, it's really hurting the Democrats pulling black people away because the injustice that we seeing with our own eyes is terrible.
Can I ask what you think about Donald Trump?
Allan, let me say this, Allan.
Yeah.
Just as you talked about the Haitians, and I know the other week you were talking about the lady was trying to get home, you still don't see black folks saying, okay, yeah, you're right. So we need to get that. I'm telling you, you look at it. Moved.
Okay, but let me say this.
Not moved by it at all.
I mentioned about the black family that was coming home and got just caught up in the middle. They weren't involved in it. And I see Eric Brown.
But why mention black people, period? Leave us out of it.
Well,
I ain't saying you, but I'm saying the whole country. Leave us alone. Because the Somalians wasn't black when they was getting that money, but all of a sudden they like black, black, black. Y'all don't even like us.
Well, there was a protest today in Detroit, and Dr. Anthony was involved, and the NAACP was involved. and it was at 7 Mile and Telegraph, and there were I saw a lot of white faces. There was a few black faces, but mostly again white faces. I want to, if we could, Vanessa, go to our viewers. Absolutely. And then I want to talk about Don Lemon.
A lot of comments, please.
I didn't get a chance to weigh in on Don Lemon. Mr. Evans, we want you to stay with us if you would.
Okay.
Speaking the truth has consequences. Edward All, Jesus Christ spoke the truth. What do y'all think about the Epstein files release? Ms. Sheila, thank you for your comments. We're probably going to have time to talk about that here in the near future. I agree with Allan and Adolph about intimidation being imposed. Felicia Dean. Stephanie, I don't think there's a limit on the fees charged for guardianship and conservatorship from the words which can deplete the funds. A limit on the fees charged. Typically, the judge will set those fees, I believe, Stephanie, and they're usually reasonable fees. Most black males don't go past 8 Mile in real life. Miss Sheila, Vanessa, their principal at Cass Tech should be in trouble for having the Cass Tech students out protesting ICE. You don't see kids from Birmingham, West Bloomfield, Plymouth Township, etc. Shame on the principal at Cass Tech. We're not getting in their fight. We care. We didn't vote. We didn't vote for Trump. Deborah Harris, thank you. We are not getting in their fight. We care. I didn't vote for Trump. Thank you. Thank you, Miss Sheila. Allan's distracted by the basketball game. He may be. I'm not sure. Fight the children, education. Miss Sheila, Queen Bee. Further, the business of going after the Haitians is getting black people involved. Good evening, Janet. We're glad to see you. Black people stand with the right to protest, but deportation and illegal immigration are not our fight. We know the warrant procedures and the right of law enforcement to kick our doors. And thank you, Stephanie. It's about to get raw, Miss Sheila. Not our fight. Killing innocent people we oppose. We all do, Stephanie. Michigan State, yes, Janet. Others have never stood with black people. There's paid protesters, and I think there's a lot of debate about that. It's not just a peaceful protest like at 7 Mile and Telegraph today, because there was a peaceful protest from what I could see. And those were citizens protesting, right? And I don't know what's going on. I don't know what happened on January 6th. I think that when there becomes an organized act of violence and people get hurt, abused, there's something else going on besides peaceful protest. I'm not accusing anybody of that, but it sure looks a little different than a peaceful protest that happened in Detroit today. The ICE thing, G Money, good to see, is not the blacks' fight. No other minority group has ever stood for our injustices. Blacks have fought for all these illegals as well as legal immigrants' rights, and it's not reciprocated.
Can I say something? Can I
sure.
Say that comment? I think if you looked at Black Lives Matters, the protests, there were probably majority white people in the streets protesting over black rights there. So I don't know that that's a fair statement. But anyways,
what's not a fair statement?
Well, I'm saying that nobody cares about our fight, so why should we care about their fight?
Well,
I think
to me that should speak volumes. If black folks didn't participate in Black Lives Matter, maybe a lot of black folks didn't believe in that organization. Maybe that's what it was.
Well, do they not believe in the cause?
I don't know. I didn't march. I didn't protest. I didn't do any of that. Again, I'd rather lend my talents, the God-given talents that he's given me, to assist people in different kind of ways.
I understand that, but I'm going to say that the cause, people can say I don't believe in the organization, but the cause itself was protesting that so many black motorists were getting killed during traffic stops, and that was, and police were going, and basically George Floyd was killed in front of everybody, in the same way that one of the protesters was killed. Two of the protesters were killed in front of everybody. So I understand. Look, there were questions about Black Lives Matters, the actual organization and the financing of it, and where some of that money went, but the message, the cause was important.
So
do you want to finish the comments, Vanessa, with Stephanie?
You know what, mine is.
Okay, I'll finish really quickly.
Answer this one though. Meaning the D said, can they join? Absolutely. All you got to do is take your phone, put the camera on, on that QR code, and come on in. If you don't want to come in today, you could come on in tomorrow.
There's room. We have room.
I want to say to Michael, I appreciate your point of view, and I'm, whatever, we may not agree with everything, but I do totally, and I want to hear people's views, And that's what the show is about, is hearing different viewpoints.
Okay, I'm out of here, y'all. Thanks a
I
lot.
appreciate it.
Thanks for joining us. Come back anytime you like. We're happy to have you. Morel Peter, do the protesters have jobs? Thank you for joining us. Morel Peter, we appreciate you. Miss Sheila, martial law, that's a great, let's hope it doesn't get to martial law. Most have learned the race card. Stephanie, can I be a guest so I can talk about, yeah, come on. Me and the D anytime you'd like. Come on when you have time to talk. Queen B, Mike Evans. Law is not justice. It's a money dance. Relationships. January 6th was terrible. It was. If that was us, oh my God, Deborah. Yeah, that was an organized. I don't know if it was as organized as they thought it was, but it seemed like an organized, whatever you want to call it.
There's definitely an organization there. Yeah.
You better preach, Mike Evans. G Money. America's been blind for the true realities. Some of these protesters probably are paid to protest. Don Lemon was charged. Black folks go past 8 Mile. Deborah, I want to talk about Don Lemon. I didn't get an opportunity if I can.
Yeah.
If you don't mind, I can't afford it. Morel Peter. Don Lemon, they have him on tape saying that I'm not a protester. I'm here to report it, and I'm a journalist. It's an outrage that he was arrested after that. It's also an outrage that this young black lady, I don't remember her name.
Georgia Fort.
DEA is showed up at her house. If she did something illegal that was a misdemeanor, I don't care if it's a federal misdemeanor. She's not a violent threat to society. Why you would send federal agents to her home is also outrageous, and it's theatrics, and it's terrible.
Yep.
Yeah. I just think that it's very interesting that we all, the media and everything has us focused on ICE. And let me say this. I did not want to watch the video of the man that was murdered last week. I can't watch stuff like that. I mean, I see horrific things every day on an everyday basis. And it's just very disturbing what occurred. It's very, very sad. But even with that, like I said, there's always, whenever there's a fight, there's going to be a protest, and a protest hopefully will lead to some kind of change. I don't know. I think it's interesting that the current administrator had a conversation with the mayor as well as the governor of Minnesota. I don't know what's going to come of that, but people are very hopeful that, things will be different. But I want to change the subject just a little bit. I want to bring it on. Well, that is home. I want to say this. I'm going to say this. My heart goes out to those who do not have shelter in these bitter cold temperatures. I'm also going to say for those people who have experienced those water main breaks and have been hostages in their homes, I feel bad for them as well. I'm hoping that they're getting the relief that they so deserve. I think it was 51 water main breaks. I'm hoping that they get the relief that they. I'm not going to say that it's anybody's particular fault. When you're talking about old infrastructure, things like this happen. It's really unfortunate that things like this has happened. But I want people to get the relief that they deserve, because being held captive in your home, you can't get out. And there's elderly people on some of these streets that can't even get out, and their people can't even get to them because, you have the water main breaks and the streets are frozen over. I think that's pretty sad. And it is very sad as far as I'm concerned.
Right. I agree.
And thank you, D. Hughes, for your comment. My only point to that is, if we don't have a reporter there that can give us the facts of what's going on, if we lock up reporters for telling the truth, for being honest, and then we lose our rights, and that's a constitutional issue. And maybe go ahead.
DU was saying that Don Lemon violated church. Look, anybody can walk into a church. If you're not breaking the law, you're not breaking the law by entering a church. And he, supposedly, unless we hear differently, take his word that he was covering this protest in the church. Could the protesters be arrested for, disturbing the peace or whatever? There's probably some, as Vanessa was saying, a misdemeanor charge for that. I was arrested twice for blocking once the printing plant and once blocking the Detroit News Building when I was on strike. They were misdemeanors. They were eventually expunged. There are laws here, and if somebody's violating the law, but if Don Lemon and Georgia Fort, it was videotaping an event, they aren't the ones to be, if they weren't leading the charge and screaming and stuff like that, like some of the protesters were. That's the media is there to cover, I mean, if they had gone there and they had heard, look, we're going in there and we're going to start shooting people, then I think they would be somewhat of an accessory to the crime. But to cover a protest, which is a right in America, there's obviously places where you step over the line, where you protest, where you can get arrested for. I was in New York for when I was on strike at the Detroit News, and we were protesting. We went into office buildings where there were board members on the Gannett board, and they called the police. Some of us got out. I happened to get out before the police came, and some were arrested for that, for trespassing. But, so be it. I mean, people understand the consequences when you break the law, but in this case, I don't see Georgia Fort or Don Lemon breaking the law. So
Georgia Fort is her name. Thank you. I couldn't remember her name.
So D. Hughes says damaging government property is crazy. Damaging any property is crazy as far as I'm concerned. G Money Hollywood points out that there was a black man that was in California. He was taken out by ICE in Southern California several weeks ago for just having a celebration, and nothing is being discussed. It was swept under the rug. Deborah Harris says Strange Fruit. I don't know if people are familiar with that, but that is a song that Billie Holiday wrote, and she performed, and it was about the lynching of, black people hanging from trees. Stephanie Jackson says, let's see if that outrage or protest moves to an urban neighborhood. Not. Ms. Sheila says, what about those people paid to monitor protesters? What about them? I'm hoping that that things get better, but before they get better, that we have to go really, really dark before things get better. We know this, and so there's going to be some more mishaps. There's going to be unfortunately, there's going to be some more bloodshed before it's all over. But, I am hopeful, and I believe that things eventually will get better. Maybe not be here, but things will eventually get better. So, Allan, you've been awfully, calm tonight. Welcome back to Detroit in black and white from the Sunshine State. I see you didn't get a tan.
I got a little bit of one, but not enough.
I cannot tell.
I got a little. I was really white, super white when I got down there, so I got a little bit of color. I walked the last day I was there. I walked 5 miles. I was walking 3-4 miles every day.
Okay.
So, it was great.
D. Hughes says surplus money should be used on infrastructure. Stephanie said Allan was tired of us. Probably.
She has no idea.
Right, Jim.
She's right.
Jim, you have any final thoughts?
I do. What a great country when I can sit here and defend Don Lemon. That's my point tonight, because I'm not really a Don Lemon fan. So what a great country that we can take different positions at different times and be objective about how this world should work.
Right.
So I agree. I was never a huge Don Lemon fan, but I am a fan.
You, Allan? I'm shocked.
No, look, but I mean, I am a fan of the First Amendment, and he's a brethren in terms of being a journalist and stuff, and I think it's really important. I mean, I've been doing journalism my whole adult life, and I feel very, very strongly about it. And like I say, there's times where I've been threatened to go to jail because I haven't disclosed sources, like in the anthrax case when I was at the Washington Post. There were threats over that, but I feel very strongly about it. So, anyways.
Well, as I said, the one thing you said about standing strong as an independent news source, media person, I think that is awesome. I also believe that we should be concerned because we're talking about our constitutional rights. We're talking about trampling on the First Amendment. Someone said, I think it was Deborah Harris, I might be wrong, but she made a comment to you, Allan. She says, you get arrested and you get to go home. Black folks don't.
Well, Don Lemon's gone home, and so is George Ford.
So, well, that's what they said. So, we'll be back tomorrow morning. Join us. We'll be energized. It's Friday evening. It's cold outside, y'all. It's so. And listen, I know that I don't mean it this way, but it is cold in the D. It's cold. So we'll be back tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock. Make sure you join us. Tell all your friends about the greatest show on these YouTube streets. Join us. Do like Mike Evans did this evening. We had somebody last week, Miss T. Woods, who joined us. We've had Bridget Huff join us. We've had Dwayla Boyce join us. Hey, G Money Hollywood, even if you don't want us to see your face, you could just use the audio. Mr. 1213, Miss Sheila, we want to say thank you, because guess what? If it wasn't for you guys, we wouldn't have a show. You guys make the show. We share information with each other, and we thank God for that. All right, you guys be safe. Have a wonderful rest of the Friday evening. See you soon.